Welcome back to another episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. This journey began in late 2024, and 2025 promises to take you to new places around the state, hopefully inspiring you to see them for yourself. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of Playing Around Wisconsin. Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of Playing Around Wisconsin. We are at Northern Bay Golf Resort in north central Wisconsin. I got my good friends Nick, Reggie, Lefty Chad, and Dave with me here today. So we're going out in a five-some, trying to keep things quick. So we got a little bit of a different presentation with the round today, but hopefully get a good feel of what Northern Bay is. It's a lot of fun to come on out here, so let's follow along and have some fun. Northern Bay is located in west central Wisconsin, about a half hour east of Tomah. The Pro Shop and Bar offer a warm welcome as you arrive at the golf course and are a great place to hang out after you finish your round of golf. Get a refreshment or two, or maybe even a bite to eat. Ample practice facilities give you a chance to hit some balls before the round and roll a few putts as well. Northern Bay tips out at over 7,200 yards, which is way too rich for my blood, so the white tees at about 6,400 yards were the only choice for us. The first hole at Northern Bay is the first of 9 replica holes that this course has to offer. While not particularly long from any of the tees, 317 yards from the whites in particular, accuracy is incredibly important as you play this hole. The many bunkers on both sides of the fairway offer a deterrent from getting too aggressive, especially for someone like myself, and you know, Mr. Threewood here, that's the only play that I'm going to make on this hole. So, simply enough, keep the ball out of the sand or out of the rough, and this hole becomes a lot less complicated, until you reach the green, of course. The greens at Northern Bay are pretty quick in comparison to most greens that folks watching this channel might be used to playing, and so don't let that catch you by surprise, and also don't let the back to front slope of this green catch you by surprise either. Going from hole number 1 to hole number 2, we arrive at the first of 2 back-to-back par 3s. I personally really like this hole. This hole is on the longer side for par 3s and is the longest par 3 on the course. And the green is a little deceptive from the tee box as it sits a lot higher up than you might recognize. And that ridge comes into view here with Nick and Reggie missing the green short from the tee. And the green itself is a lot longer than it is wide and almost breaks down into 4 different corners, each one spilling off into its own area. I actually flew the green, so club choice is going to be absolutely critical in dictating the success that you have on this hole. But if you can put a decent score on the card, it's going to help you out quite a bit as you move forward on this course. Back-to-back par 3s. Coming up is a replica of the iconic 16th hole at Augusta National in Georgia. There are countless examples of pros throwing absolute darts on this hole, and unfortunately none of us could really replicate that here today. However, none of us really laid any stinkers off the tee either, so it kept us in a decent position to at least try to score on this hole. From my understanding, they try to put the pin in this location to replicate that Sunday pin placement, so something to keep in mind is playing enough break and getting the ball to the hole. That green is no joke. Already our third replica hole of the day. The 4th hole at Northern Bay is a par 4 based off the 5th hole at Oakland Hills. This is a quality par 4 that would fit in just about anywhere. And overall, I don't think this hole is tremendously complicated. It is on the longer side of things, but all you gotta do, just like any golf hole, is keep the ball in play, and you should be alright.
There you go.
So before I completely oversimplify this hole, there is that trench in the middle of the fairway that you have to avoid. The theme of fast and sloping greens keeps on going here on this hole, and that didn't seem to bother Dave too much on that beautiful pitch shot, almost holing it from about 12 yards off the green. Nick's putt right here and then Chad's coming up really indicates what kind of slope this green has, particularly on the front left side. So if you're going to come out here to play, I hope you've been practicing your leg putts and working on your touch, because you're going to need it. Another replica hole coming up.
Shank Elementary School,
The fifth hole at Northern Bay does its best to pay homage to the first hole at Pebble Beach. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the ocean vistas in with this one out here, but it's still a great hole nevertheless. Like the first hole, it's not a terribly long one, but the big difference between both holes is, well, the lack of bunkers on this one and the pretty significant slope from left to right on the fairway and the green. So, due to the length overall, use your fairway finder off the tee, and you shouldn't have something that's terribly long as a second shot. I particularly like the strategy of playing to a good number off the tee, just so you can have the best chance of hitting one of the smallest greens on this golf course. So Chad's birdie putt here and Dave's birdie putt coming up really indicate what kind of slope this has, as Chad misses on the low side and Dave unfortunately misses his birdie putt just a little bit short here. So, short story long, this bad boy moves left to right. I'm pretty excited about this hole being on this course, only because I spent 2 amazing years living in Northeast Ohio. I was actually lucky enough to attend one of the pro events at Firestone in Akron back when I lived in Northeast Ohio, I think the year 2013, watching the best players in the world be way better at this sport than I am. Anyways, I can talk about Cleveland and Northeast Ohio until the day I die, which hopefully isn't a really long time. So, this hole is a beast. No matter if you're playing off the white tees or the back tees or what, this bad boy is long. And since none of us are Tiger Woods or Dustin Johnson or Ricky Fowler or any of the other pros that I was able to go see out at Firestone back in 2013, none of us had a real good chance of getting there in 2. Not that it would matter anyways, with this water hazard protecting the green like crazy. So this hole did its damage for us, and I only felt like it was a good thing to blur out our finishes on this green. Ultimately, I was happy to walk away with a bogey, despite the fact I don't like having 6s on my scorecards. Now, I don't have a lot of stories to relate back to this 7th hole, just that I really like this hole in general. By this point in time in your round, you've probably experienced something out here that's been really frustrating for you. Even if you're playing from the forward tees, you can really gain an understanding and an appreciation and a respect for just how challenging this sport can be for the pros and just how good they are as well. So the 7th hole, with not a lot of tree trouble and pretty wide open, you can confidently, well, certainly hope anyways, that you can get up and down for a solid score compared to some of those tough holes before it. Something to keep in mind is the plethora of fairway bunkers that are about 250 yards out from the white tees, so you might find yourself in there if you're playing things safely, like me. Thankfully I missed them today, but hasn't always been the case. Following one of my favorite holes at the course is another one of my favorite holes at this course. Mostly running downhill from tee to green, this hole plays a lot easier than the 6th hole, and that is for sure. If you are skilled enough to do this, you're going to want to aim towards the left side of the fairway in order to give yourself the best chance to try to reach this green or get close to the green in 2. You can potentially hit something high and cut it over the trees on the right, but if you choose to lay up conservatively, just keep in mind that the hole does dogleg pretty sharply to the right, so you run the risk of running the ball through the fairway and into the trees on the left. And with the green being pretty amply sized and running from front to back, I want to keep playing this hole, and just once, I'd love the opportunity to actually try to reach this green in two. So up to this point, I've been working really hard to get as many shots of Reggie, Nick, Dave, and Chad, so you're going to just have to take my word for it that I got up and down for par on this hole. But overall, not a terribly complicated hole. You just have to play a smart second shot if you want to give yourself the best chance at a quality score. I really like this hole as a finisher for the front nine. You get a pretty considerable advantage playing off the white tees, and something to keep in mind that a miss right is absolute deadsville, but a miss left could keep you in play playing off the 10th tee or potentially somewhere around the 18th green. So as you make it to the tee box, don't let the thought of missing right completely ruin your confidence on this hole. Just try to shape yourself up towards the left side and you should be okay. And something to be mindful of on your approach shot is the amount of bunkers on the backside as well as a bunker on the left side of the green. There is a ridge that runs the width of the green, and you'll see it here with Reggie's chip shot up on. So if you can keep it on the proper ridge, depending on the pin location, this green becomes a lot simpler. So as I was worried about getting myself in for par, I managed to screw up my camera work, so I owe you an apology, Reg. You had a great putt getting up and down on that hole, bud. And now we have arrived at the 10th hole at Northern Bay, a replica of the iconic 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass. Island holes are a dime a dozen here in Wisconsin, and this one, well, I have no other context, but I think this does a really good job doing justice to the 17th at Sawgrass. From the white tees, we only played it at about 120 yards, so it's really not a long hole at all. Thanks, Chad. But visually, that much water around a landing zone can only mess with your head. So if there's any piece of strategy that I might give to you if you've never played here before, is just pretend the water really isn't there. You've probably hit a shot of this length many times before, and you've probably been pretty successful in those shots as well. So just act like that water ain't there and hope for the best, really. So Reggie absolutely cooked his tee shot and Nick went splash with his. So if you do go deep or go in the water, you can still be okay. And with the drop zone behind the green like Nick had to go to, you can probably avoid the water if you really want to after your first tee shot. And one final thing about this hole, the green ain't flat. Onward and upward, the 11th hole is a replica of the 13th hole at Augusta National. I can't think of many better holes to put after the last one, going from a tough par 3 to a fun par 5. Your boy got pretty lucky here. I actually cut that corner somehow, some way, thanks to a little bit of a helper wind for myself, but you got to keep in mind that the junk that lines the left side of the fairway is not particularly easy to cut. So try not to be the hero if you want to save a solid score here. And as you can expect with anything from Augusta National, there is absolutely nothing flat about this hole, anywhere. So if you do get lucky or are just so darn skilled that you can cut the corner and wind up where I wound up, you're going to have a tougher shot than you might otherwise anticipate. Replicating the final hole of Amen Corner, I think the most satisfying moment of this hole, besides just appreciating the challenge of it, is finally putting the ball into the hole. With the ball being that much higher than my feet on my approach shot, I was still really disappointed to have this long of an eagle putt.
Over the hill into Grandma's house.
And disappointed to have that long of a birdie putt too, but thankfully I was able to roll this one in for the first birdie of the day.
Good job, Rob.
Our replica field trip takes us to Pennsylvania for the 12th hole at Northern Bay. Any of you who spent the time watching the US Open this year probably heard a lot about this hole. I certainly hope so at the very least. The church pews are on the left side of this fairway, and if you manage to find yourself in them, good luck. And ultimately, too, with how this hole is designed and where it's placed on this course, there's plenty of space on the right, so playing a shot on the left side might, well, be a fruitless effort to begin with. Bunkers on the right side of the fairway deter any sort of, I suppose, favorability on either side, but right is a lot better place to be than left. Your approach shot is going to be pretty significantly uphill. If you hit the ball short off the tee, long off the tee, no matter what, you got some uphill work to do. So make sure you have enough club with that second or third shot to the green. Returning from the land of kind of golf make-believe, if that's a place that actually exists, we come to the 13th hole, which is an absolutely fantastic short par 4 that is completely unique to Northern Bay. A well-placed tree on the left side of the fairway acts, in my view at the very least, as a confident aim point for anyone off of the tee. With the moral of that story being, most players tend to fade, right-handers anyways, so if you hit a little bit of a mishit and push it off to the right from that aim point, you're still going to be in really decent shape to have a pretty simple second shot.
Whoa! Look at that.
Pretty simple, but not completely simple. So if you miss the fairway, you're going to have some humps and bumps and lumps to deal with. No flat lies off the fairway. I really wish I would have been able to learn from my last approach shot on the 12th hole, but not doing myself a lot of favors, and a sneak preview of the next hole, something pretty similar.
Nice shot, Dave.
Just lots of frustration on my own accord. So anyways, we got a smaller green, which kind of funnels towards the middle from both the left and the right side. Slopes from back to front as well, and here's Reggie. Rolling pretty solid putt. Got that one on camera. Sorry again, my friend, I missed the last one on the 9th hole. But 13th hole, a fantastic golf hole that really fits in well with all of the replica holes at Northern Bay. Similarly, another dogleg left, 14, does that same sort of thing. Been playing out here once a year for the last 4 years, and what I consistently tell folks who've never been out here is that the replica holes are great, but I really do like these holes that are unique to Northern Bay as well. So, hole 14, just like 13, try to shade your tee shot on the left center of the fairway. If you wind up missing it short and right, it should keep you in play. The 14th is a little bit shorter than the 13th and also a little bit tighter as well. So if you got a little squirrely on 13, hopefully you're a little less squirrely on 14. And so by this point in time, I have gotten real tired of hitting wedge shots with the ball above my feet. But enough complaining. Let's give Chad his flowers here. He absolutely tatered his tee shot, a nice little buttercut. Throw a dart close to the pin, and we got off of that green as quickly as we could. Moving on to the 15th hole, this gives a lot of vibes similar to the 6th hole on the front side of Northern Bay. Tipping out at 641 yards and playing 566 yards from the white tees, we got another beast here, that's for sure. Just like the 6th hole on the front, it's pretty narrow on this hole, and left is worse than right. That being said, however, if you can find the left center of the fairway, you are going to be in a really good position to at least hopefully get a quality second shot running towards the green. So up to this point, I've been comparing this to the 6th hole on the front side, but similarly to the 8th hole, this does get a lot more narrow as you reach the green. So even if you hit an absolutely smoked first shot, you can still screw up your second like I just did right there. So even if you hit a poor second shot like I did, thankfully there is some downhill run to the fairway. It's kind of similar again to the 8th hole with that downhill slope. So regardless of which, the green being fairly narrow from the fairway, you probably want to lay up and go for this green in 3 no matter what. Talking about golf, it comes across pretty simple. Keep the ball in the fairway, get the ball to the hole when you're putting, but, well, that hole will test even the most experienced of players. Dave, you could not be any more correct. 16 is an absolutely pretty hole. The elevated tee boxes, the trees lining both sides of the fairway, and the gentle downslope of the entirety of the hole just are, well, in a word, pretty. Right, Dave? Now, if only our game on this hole was as pretty as the hole was. Take the 2 bunkers into account that are on the right side of the fairway. So, erring on the left side should give you a much better look into the green. If you're too far right, it's going to be a blind shot in. So if you can stay on the left side, please do yourself a favor and do it. Do it. Stay on the left. The green itself is pretty large as well, so if you're going to be playing into this green from a little bit further back, just keep in mind that a long iron or something with a lot less loft probably isn't going to stick on the green. So just, it's a tough hole. It's a very, very tough hole. And following that very, very tough hole comes a short par 3. In theory, this should be a pretty easy one, but
That's
nope.
exactly.
Playing less than 130 yards today, I was a little disappointed to have bladed my gap wedge over the green on what is otherwise a pretty simple and straightforward short par 3. The pin was in a favorable position today too, so again, blading something long was not something I was looking to do. And from this angle you can see how the green does spill from the center to the back right, so hitting a low cutty blade, there's no chance that thing's going to stay on the green. Not a complicated hole, I just hope you play it better than I did. And we have reached the finale. The 18th hole is a replica of the 18th hole at Bay Hill, so this is a really, really neat way to end the 18th hole here, like the 18th hole there. To the left of the fairway is a slope coming from the driving range, and there is water up ahead on the right that you really got to give it an absolute heroic poke to reach. So get your driver out, swing away, try to shorten this hole as best as you can. Too short off the tee is going to leave you with a much longer club than you might want to, reaching a very, very, very small landing spot on a tricky, tricky green. This hole is an absolutely fantastic finisher. The 3 bunkers on the backside of the green offer a great amount of protection for anything long, and with that water running all the way up to basically the edge of the green, you really have to hit a good second shot in order to avoid any of the nonsense. And in the spirit of nonsense, we had a lot of fun with a lot of nonsense on the golf course. Northern Bay is a place that will challenge you, that will frustrate you, but that will absolutely keep you in love with the game of golf. I'm happy to get out here at least once a year to challenge myself and really just kind of get away from it all. I just wish I had a place on the lake out here so I could, go boating and swimming, but that's a different story for a different time. Thanks to Dave, Chad, Reggie, and Nick for playing. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, friends, and we'll see you next time on Playing Around Wisconsin.